2, 3, my baby girl is around because she loves me so, and this I don't Yes! Yes!
Well, will you look at that? We did it, guys. Thanks to everyone spreading my last video, as well as all the efforts from everyone in the community. We got Blizzard and the development team to respond to the issues with the Shadowlands PvP vendors. Well, most of them. I seriously want to thank you all because you did such an amazing job. I also want to personally thank Zach or Asmon for putting out the tweet he did, as it really generated a lot of attention. I also want to thank you, if you see this video, for publicly supporting my channel the way that you did. You didn't have to do that, but you did, and it honestly made my day. So thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. Now, although we got a response from Blizzard, our work is not finished. I was able to submit the information I'd collected, and we are now on the right track. But I still need your guys' help. Getting their attention was only the first step. I think now is more important than ever to discuss our potential options and what we as a community would like to see. I know we have some players that have been in the community for a long time, but we also have some players who may not be so familiar with the past systems from the Burning Crusade, Mists of Pandaria, and Warlords of Draenor. So today I'm going to discuss with you all some of the feedback offered from the community and what Blizzard could do to nail the PvP gearing system before the start of the expansion, as it is not as simple as just adding a PvP stat. Now, in one of my recent streams, I did a poll to somewhat get a consensus from the community what type of systems they would like to see in Shadowlands. If you read through Ian's response, he essentially states they are open to adding more favorable options for stats and or PvP bonuses to the gear itself. And as Hydra mentioned in a tweet, the and or is a really important factor here. Most of you said you would prefer having a PvP stat or a bonus rather than having proper stat combinations. However, this was done to show that just having a PvP stat is not the end-all be-all solution. And by the end of this video, I will give you all the opportunity to provide your own feedback, as I feel it is equally as important. So let's get into it. If we go back in time to the Burning Crusade or Wrath of the Lich King, PvP gear had a stat known as Resilience, which reduced the amount of damage you took from other players. Now, to make this gear not as effective in PvE, the stats on those items were altered, and the PvP gear had more stamina but a reduction in your main stat like strength or intellect. In Mists of Pandaria, the developers took it to another level and spent a lot of time with their gear design to balance the items between the PvP and PvE communities, such as PvP power, which works like the offensive benefit and versatility, increasing all damage and healing done to other players. Now, although some items from PvP and PvE closely mirrored each other, there were some unique differences between them. Some items offered PvP power, while others offered a Shaw Touch gem slot, increasing the main stat of certain classes, causing PvP players to utilize the PvP power, while PvEers would target the gem slot. This did not make your PvP gear useless in PvE, but it did recognize the hard work of players who participated in their respective fields. However, when WoD hit, Blizzard simplified this system by simply boosting the item level of PvP gear when engaged in player vs player combat. So for example, the max rank PvP gear had an item level of 710, but would scale to an item level of 740, whereas the highest eye level mythic rating gear would have an item level of 720 to 730. Now, for as much hate as Warlords of Draenor had, outside of Ashran and a few trinkets, WoD had one of the most well-received PvP gearing systems. It allowed players that reached the pinnacle in terms of gearing in PvE or PvP to transition into other forms of content without feeling like their own forms of gearing were inferior to the other. Now, of course, they would not perform as well as somebody who had fully committed themselves to PvP or PvE, but they still had the ability to cross over and begin earning their stripes. And for me personally, I think it's fine to have someone perform better in a given category if that's where most of their time is spent. Now, before going any further, I think it's important to revisit Ian's statement. They believe that the very strongest characters should be the ones who participate and excel in a wide range of activities. I believe some of the previous systems would allow for crossover in the use of items from both PvP and PvE to complete their character's kit, while still allowing PvP gear to be best suited for PvP. But how do we ensure that PvP gear is still best suited for PvP? Is it as simple as using the WoD or previous expansion systems? Can Blizzard leave the vendors as they are and just slap on item level scaling or a PvP specific stat? Unfortunately, the answer in my opinion is no. As mentioned earlier, the and or is essential here. In WoD, we had set bonuses, which I'll touch on in a little bit, but we also had multiple items to choose from for each item slot. We cannot simply use a single helmet or a single pair of gloves with resilience if the stats are ineffective. An example could be the warrior class, which requires an adequate amount of haste to ensure proper rage generation. If Blizzard does not properly stat the gear on this vendor, then having a full set of crit mastery gear as a warrior will not work. Not only will you most likely not perform as well in PvP when compared to the proper statted PvE gear, it will also lead to just unfun gameplay. There is a reason classes desire certain stats. It aids the flow of the class, and in some cases, certain stat thresholds are required for proper class mechanics. In my opinion, we must have a couple options per item to choose from, similar to past expansions. In the case of PvP stats or bonuses, we need the and, not just the or. Not every single item has to be best in slot, but I think you get the point. You could make the decision to better optimize your character's kit through an item or two from PvE if the trade-off felt worth it. Now, I know some players have mentioned PvP set bonuses, but I feel at this point in the expansion, Blizzard has a lot on their plate with the current Covenant system that requires a tremendous amount of balancing still. And I fear them trying to balance unique set bonuses at this point in the beta with the expansion launch just around the corner may be too much to take on. If they choose to do generic bonuses for all classes, that would be fine, but they would have to make them be worth it. And if I'm being honest, I'm not too sure if I trust them to do so at this point. For me, I think the WAD item level scaling system is the easiest to implement with less than 2 months to the launch of Shadowlands. The MoP system took careful consideration, and although I would love unique set bonuses that would alter the way the game is played, I feel that system needed to hit the vendors earlier for further testing. But at the end of the day, it is truly up to you as a member of the community to vote and decide on what system you would like to see in Shadowlands. Recently, the lead rewards designer tweeted out that most of the developers do not have time to watch videos and would prefer written summaries. And after getting in contact with him, I'm pretty sure that that was directed towards my previous video. So I will create a forum thread with the link to this video as a conversation starter for those of you who are willing to take a couple minutes to offer your insight on this topic. We really need to make sure Blizzard correctly implements these vendors, or we may not see this type of collaboration again in the future. I would hope that is not the case, but it is a concern of mine. And the link to that thread will be listed in the description box below. Also, it is important to note that Ian did not mention the issue with the current Battleground gear requiring an outrageous amount of time to acquire, but I will save that for a future video, as I feel Battlegrounds are equally as important as Arena for the general player base. I want you guys to know that I'm working very hard on trying to get these changes through. I did my best to inform you all on the options we currently have. I hope this video has been helpful, and I truly want to thank each and every one of you. As always, don't forget to share this video with your friends, and I will see you all in the next one.